Welcome to Tech This Way.
Thank you for that. Really appreciate it.
Hey, no worries, man. Let me just make sure this
Very
thing.
big help for us.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a pain, right? You have to move and all that transactions going through.
Yeah, 'cause I understand a lot of banks are actually like shutting down a lot of crypto business because there's a lot of issues regarding because some people can move money there like millions without even being known who they are, and they can just money laundering and all that.
Yeah.
And
That's
for
true.
us, we do real estate payments, so it's pretty known who owns the property, and it's really hard to do that kind of sketchy activity. I mean, when you buy a property, when you move money internationally, they ask for your IDs, they ask for all this information, right? But when you buy property, they ask for even more. They ask for your job, your blood type. I don't know. They ask the KYC is even more
Stringent, huh?
strict, yeah, compared to just moving money around because you're buying a property. Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. We can get a little bit more into that. But anyway, thanks for getting on the call.
Sure.
So I'm not sure if you've seen some of the past recordings, but basically, it's just it's just a casual, long chat
Okay.
to find out more about Ray Rafondo.
Oh, not too much to find out.
and how it all began, and and all that. So
Sure.
do go as far back as you want. So how did it all start for you?
Oh, it was for Qwikwire. Well, I did have some entrepreneurship experience before when I was a teenager, right? I did that, and then also when I was in college.
Go into that. Go into that. What did you do?
Well, I was selling. I joined my parents' company. It's called Nature's Choice. So they're part of this company, and then we were opening offices in Cebu and then Davao in the Philippines, and we're hiring distributors, etc. So we're manufacturing like food supplements and all that. We were selling it to the markets, and so we were doing that. So we were expanding, and so I was involved in that. I was 15 years old, 16 years old. So I was like already speaking on stage, and
some
it was still,
from your parents, huh?
I was still in high school, so it was fun for me to like travel around the Philippines and do that kind of stuff, and but the company didn't. Eventually, a few years later, the company didn't do so well, so it shut down.
Sorry, you said
then
you were talking on stage. What was that about?
Yeah, like we do presentation, sales, etc. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And that didn't work out. The company eventually filed bankruptcy, and we ended up moving to the U.S. When I was 18. And I went to college in the U.S. Moved to the U.S. And then I also worked there while I was in college, and also
where in the U.S. did you
go? 2000, 99, 2000, around that time. Yeah.
Okay.
So 98, sorry, 1998. Yeah, I remember now. So we went there, and then while I was in college, I started my own money transfer online business because back then in the late 90s, Silicon Valley was like the hottest thing, right? The dot-com boom, and I was thinking, what online business can I set up and start, right? And I was thinking about online money transfer, and it doesn't exist yet. It's Western Union. You have to physically go to Western Union. So I started an online money transfer business without a license, without co-founders, without a license, without registering, without investors. It's just all me. I had a $50,000 savings. I used all up to do that, and I did launch it.
What was the process? I mean, how did it work?
Well, people can just send money online using credit card or their bank account to the Philippines.
So you're the agent for money going which direction?
Well, we partner with a bank in the Philippines called BPI, Bank of the Philippine Islands. So we partner with them, and then they handle the disbursement. We sign a contract, and I had someone do the website. So I spent my $50,000 savings into that. I was like 21, 22. I spent all my savings there because I was also working while in college. So I was able to save up some money. So what I wanted to do was basically create something that can make money while I was going to school. Something I can just leave alone. Like, oh, after I set everything up, I just leave it alone and start making its own money. I didn't realize I have to have customer service. I didn't realize I have to have, business development and marketing and sales. And when we were getting all these inquiries about, failed transactions and disputes I ended up answering all these emails. I ended up working more because my idea was not to work. I don't want to work while going to college. So I created this website where you can earn revenue for me while I'm going to college. I don't have to work, right? I don't want to work at McDonald's where going to university, right? So, but I ended up working more than if I would just work at McDonald's 4 hours a day because of the work. I didn't realize, I was so naive. I didn't realize that there's a lot of work involved in this kind of business. And plus I didn't have a license. I got a letter from the California Department of Finance saying, hey, you're operating a money transfer service without a license. So I shut it down.
No, but I'm curious on your thought process of, hey, you know what? I need to earn some money. So let's look around. How did somebody like your 21-year-old over there figure out, this is something you could do?
Well, I was in Silicon Valley. I was in Mountain View, Sunnyvale. So I was seeing everything was being done. Everything is becoming online. Like even bicycle shops are becoming online. Amazon was getting big. eBay was getting. Everything is going online. So what else can we do online that like the people do right now? What other big industries are out there that you can move online? And money transfer was the first thing that came to mind because it's something that I understand because a lot of Filipinos use it, right? So, and then nobody else was doing it at the time, 2003, 2002, right? Zoom came out in 2004, right? But they're heavily funded. They're from a PayPal co-founder. They got millions of dollars in funding from the beginning. So that's different, like unlike me, it's just me. It's just me.
But you didn't. But it's interesting how that entrepreneurial mindset was there, and not, hey, I'm going to get a good degree and then go get a job.
Oh yeah. Always been like that. I never liked working for somebody else. It's like I think I had some other. I started a coffee shop too before, like a coffee house, and I franchised it. So I ran it when I was in my late teens, also. So I had that experience. So it wasn't a tech company, but I think once you become an entrepreneur once, and then you go back to the workforce, you're already damaged. You start thinking about the next thing. Like, what am I gonna do to get out of here? Your mind is always. That's why it's amazing. My boss at Lamb Research, when I started working there, it's a big Silicon Valley company. I had this cubicle. My cubicle was pretty big, right? And all my coworkers, they had their cubicles had pictures of their dog, pictures of their family in there, right? So pictures of every they reminds them of home. So when they're there, they feel at home, right? And then my boss goes to my cubicle. I've been working there for a couple of years. My boss would go to my cubicle. There's no display of family or a home or a dog or anything that would indicate that I'm gonna stay there for a long time. It's just my laptop and me. There's no display. There's no artwork. There's no painting. Nothing in my cubicle. They can't see anything. So he was suspicious. Like, is he really planning to stay here that long? And probably he has. That thing gave it. It was a gift. He was the best boss I've ever had.
Oh, so let's jump back a little bit before you got a job. So you were in college. So you started your unlicensed money transfer. Then what happened?
Yeah. Well, I shut it down, right? I was still in college at the time because I didn't have a license. So I ended up working again while I was in school because I lost all my money. And when I graduated, then I worked in the Silicon Valley. I work in finance for a few years. Yeah.
Okay. What was it, with a bank or another tech company? Or?
It's a it's a big tech company in Silicon Valley.
I see.
It's called Lamb Research. Yeah, semiconductor. They do that. Yeah.
Okay.
I also did taxes. Freelancing taxes.
Right.
Yeah, filing taxes for small businesses, individuals, and yeah, I did that too.
So it was a good corporate life for a couple of years. Then what happened?
Well, I was already plotting. While I was working there during my free time, I was already writing a business plan, right? So I was already planning to leave from the day one.
Right.
That's why my boss kind of realized that when he didn't see any display of my pictures there, a picture of my dog or my grandma, whatever, nothing there that reminds me of home, because I never really planned.
You're not getting too attached with the work, huh?
Yeah, no. I always plan to get out of there soon. So every after work, I was working on something else. Sometimes I was doing it during work time because we have a lot. Sometimes we finish our work fast and we have free time. I ended up doing work for my other idea. So kind of a yeah.
So then,
Well, some people are watching YouTube. They're on Facebook, right? So same thing, right? They're killing time in the office, right? And might as well spend the time working on my thing, right?
yeah. So what were the things that you were working on at the same time then?
Well, this pretty
Hmm.
much.
Hmm.
Well, the early versions of Qwikwire. Well, that was 2013, 2014. Yeah, that was the earlier versions of it.
So I guess
I
when you shut down your unlicensed one, so but the idea caught on. I mean, it stuck with you.
yes, yes. It was there, and then when I revived it a few years later, it was already a payroll system. So it was a payroll system first before it became real estate enterprise payments.
Oh,
So
how did that evolve? Do share that.
well, nobody would use us as a payroll system, right? Nobody would. It's for freelancers because there were already existing competition. So and they're well known, they're well funded. So
Who is we at that time?
Odess, you know, who else? Elance, those companies, yeah, they're already around. So there was no point in competing with them. You know, freelancer.com.
No, what
They
I mean
already
is
have built it.
your company itself. Who was involved with you at the time?
Oh, my ex co-founders, Scott and then Jason.
Hmm.
That was our original idea, original business.
Okay. So then there was a bunch of you. You set up the original one. Then what happened after that?
Well, we tried to launch it. We tried to raise money for it and all that, but it failed. It ended up being a failure. And then when my co-founders left, I had to restart again. And then I had my new co-founders, which were interns at the time, they were like 19, 20-year-old interns that were working with us in my older co-founders. And when my original co-founders left, I was like, so what do we do now? Do we keep going or we shut it down? He said, no, keep going. Okay, kept going. You know, then 6 years later, here we are. You know.
So you were still based in the US then?
No, I was already based here. I was in the US for a year doing it, and then then I came here 2004, 6 years ago. Came here 6 years ago, and then we did it. Yeah.
So how was the journey back to Philippines?
Pardon, sorry, because my U.S. co-founders came with me from the U.S. to the Philippines, and they stayed here for a few months. And when they thought that there's nothing happening in the company and all that, they just left. And
So you took it up. So how was the experience then at the early days of Qwikwire?
Well, there was a lot. We didn't have any customers. We just had a presentation deck. We didn't even know what product we're launching, right? So it's like missing. It's more like, because my co-founders, they're like, they want to do a lot of research first before they go into something. I do minimal research, and then I'm more of a trial and error guy. They're more like they want to do a lot of research and talking to a lot of people, and I'm like more like let's try this out, and then if it doesn't work, then try something else. So I tend to move faster than they do. They're pretty indecisive. So that actually was a cause of a lot of conflict, right? Disagreements on what direction to take, because you can't get anything done if you keep being indecisive. You just have to just do it and try it out.
So with your
surveys don't work. Surveys don't work. Like back in 1997, I think 96, they did a survey of Americans, right? Would you use your credit card online? That's the survey. That's a question in the survey. Would you use your credit card online? This was the 90s. There was a lot of credit card fraud at the time.
Yeah.
And 98% of them said, no, we'll never use your credit card online. And that was a survey that was made by Amazon or eBay, I think. Right. They're trying to figure out whether a credit card payment on e-commerce can work, right? And today, all of the transactions on e-commerce are done on credit card, right? So it's like people don't know how they're going to behave until it's there. They're in front of it, rather than just answering a survey, right?
Yeah, that's interesting, right? So how do you reconcile that with with all this, trying to understand the customer and those
Well,
kind
you can do a minimum research, minimum survey can help. It will give you some information, but I think the best surveys are the ones where you make the customers act on your product, like whether to purchase it or to get it or to buy it, especially to pay for it, or launch a product with minimal features and like have them pay for it if they really want it.
of.
So that's pretty much what I would say is the best way to gather information whether you can sell it or not.
So let's go back to how you applied that to Qwikwire itself then. So at the start, right, you and your interns said, let's do it. So what did you guys do?
Yeah. So we first got a client, small client, Active Group is a developer, which was introduced to us by another Singapore investor, not our investor, but just a mentor. And then we were able to close the deal. And Jesse, my
But
intern,
what was your product at that time? What was your service?
huh? Well, we were trying to do payments, international payments also. So,
Okay. Yeah.
so we already have the license, we already have the bank partners. We just need a customer. So once we got that first client, it was just three of us: me, Irvin, and Jesse. Irvin is our tech guy. He's still a student. He's still a computer science student at Mapua University. And I told him, you're the only resource. So he's the one who integrated the API of this gateway to the website of our client. He was able to do it on his own without a team, just by himself. So pretty much he launched our first product. We did our first transactions. That was 2014, 2015, right? 2015 basically. And we had a paying customer now because of what he did, as an intern.
Sorry, so what was the model of the business?
Well, we were collecting payments for real estate already at the time. It's a real estate developer. But
for the customers of the developer.
Yes. But the developer, but our business was not just focused on real estate. We were doing BPOs. We were doing other kinds of businesses that collect money from abroad. So it wasn't just one company, one type of company. It wasn't just one industry.
So how did you fall into that? Again, is it your approach of, hey, you know what, here's an opportunity, let's just try it, and then suddenly just kind of grow from there?
Yeah, there's a lot of here's the difficulty with large, because we realized this. Every payments company out there tries to become the payments for everything, right? Like Dragon Pay and like Paynamics. They try to become the payments for everything, like e-commerce, government payments, etc. Right? And the way we differentiate is, why won't we just focus on large enterprises and international payments? Let's specialize on that. Forget everything else. Let's not do e-commerce. There's a lot of fraud there. There's a lot of disputes and chargebacks. Let's focus on large enterprises and cross-border transactions. What made that unique is really, you cannot really easily use an API-based payment system on large companies. Like PayPal and Stripe, they're API-based, right? And so as most payments companies. They have an API. You have a website online. You have a Facebook page. You have an e-commerce site. You can use the API to get into your shopping cart, no problem, right? But if you're a large company, like let's say a bank or a real estate developer, you're using SAP, you're using Oracle. You can't just plug in an API. You need modules for that. It gets more complicated. So we classify this now as what I would say complex payments, because the requirement, especially if it's a recurring subscription-based payments with penalties, etc., that mortgages, insurance payment, that kind of stuff, they fall into the category of complex payments. And we realize there's four types. There's like real estate is big, medical payments, medical billing, tuition payments, right? Bank loans. So these all fall into the category. And we realize if we specialize in complex payments and international payments, we will differentiate ourselves even further compared to any normal payments company who try to become the payments for everything. Right? So we don't even bother to capture small merchants, and we just try to get the big ones. The challenge of that, of course, is in the very beginning, how do you get your first big client? Right? We were knocking on doors of these developers and banks, right? Cold calling them, right? And trying to get to meetings. And when we finally get meetings, right? You do a pitch presentation. okay, for example, Ayala Land, one of the biggest developers, the biggest developer in the Philippines, we tell them, oh, we have solution to all your problem. We have a payment system, we connect to international banks, et cetera, et cetera. And then they would say, that's great. You know, our agent definitely needs this, right? Something we need. Question is, the next question came from their finance department and their legal team. How long have you guys been around? Who else is using this? And for us to tell them, oh, we're kind of hoping that you'll be our first client. We launched 6 months ago. We're hoping that you'll be our first client, right? And Ayala Land collects around, hundreds of millions of dollars, probably $300 million a year in payments from abroad. Why would they trust us with that money? A company with 4 people in it, in a small room, right? And we had the tech, we had the license, we had a little bit of money, but we didn't have the history. We didn't have like PayPal does or Western Union does, like we didn't have. So why would they trust us? So it's more like the toughest thing is to close the first client. So we have to find another client, and we got rejection after rejection. Then if we found a few that accepted us to try us out, like Century and Active Group, and once we built some history there, 3 years later we came back to Ayala Land. We already had 12, 15 developer clients, and we pitched to them, and eventually we closed them also.
Oh,
but we need to build that. We need to build that history. Yeah.
And
We just closed them last year.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah.
So then, but you've kind of landed into, as you said, your first client was the developers, then that builds on top of that, right? In terms of a string of other developers who then trust you with that.
That's right. Yeah. After we closed Ayala Land, actually closed 12 more developers last year. So they were all waiting, and then they heard that we closed Ayala Land, they all started signing up.
So what is it that you solve for them?
What is it that what? Sorry.
What is it that you solve for them? That they've had this problem forever.
Well, they were having difficulty. They were having difficulty collecting payments from abroad. That's a big challenge. A lot of their customers are using Western Union, sending it to a relative, and that relative sometimes takes the money instead of remitting it. So their default rate and their delinquency rate is pretty high. So that's something that we solve for them. So that's
and not at the fault of the buyer. In fact, it's sometimes
yes, the channel is inefficient. It's not direct. He has to find someone else. Another thing is a sales problem. They don't have to. If they sell a property to someone overseas, and that Filipino overseas or a foreigner has a bank account in America, right? But they don't have a bank account in the Philippines, which is likely the case, right? They no longer have an active. And then you tell them, can you open a bank account in the Philippines and issue us post-dated checks? Because that's how they used to do it. And then the person it's too much problem for me. It's going to take 3 months, right? Too much hassle I have to go back home to the Philippines, or I have to get a power of attorney, find a co-signer in the Philippines, etc. It's too much hassle. They just walk away. I'll come back. I'm gonna talk to my wife, and then they never come back, right? So they're losing a lot of sale just because of that, right? So what we provide them is the ability to collect payments directly from the client's account abroad. So they're gonna ask them, oh, you have a Bank of America, you have a Chase, you have PayPal, you have Venmo, you have this, you have Alipay, you have WeChat. We can connect you with Qwikwire. That's it. Done. They don't have to open a bank account in the Philippines anymore. All they have to do is use their foreign account to make their payment by enrolling to us. That's what we provide. So it's actually helped them in sales also a lot.
So on that, how do you then build the relationship with the entities on the other side for the collection?
We collect payments from our clients' customers. So it is them that market us. We don't really spend money on marketing. We just spend resources on sales. We close a sale, we get a developer. The developer educates their customers. Now we have a payment system live called Qwikwire. Just come in and
But how does Qwikwire then link up with the foreign banks and the foreign accounts?
Oh, we have foreign licenses. We did that prior to launching. We went bank to bank in the U.S. and New York. Right. We got 3 acquiring banks in the U.S. 1 in New York, 2 in California. So that's how we started that.
So obviously, from the beginning, you had to set that structure up, right?
Yes.
How was that experience?
That was the toughest one because before you can even sell a working product, you need to have a working product, right? So that one, partnering with banks, getting the licenses. The licensing was important because the banks will not partner with you without a license. So you need a license first. So once we get the licenses, we look for banks to partner. Initially, the banks also gave us restrictions on how much we can process because we're small. So that's how it works generally. And then they gradually give you, they gradually give you more capacity.
Yeah. So 6 years down the road, now what?
Well, we're expanding to Thailand. They're supposed to be They're supposed to be this month, but COVID happened, so we're moving it. Next quarter. So probably fourth quarter, we're expanding in Thailand, and we already captured the biggest developers in the Philippines. We have three more of the big ones we need to get, and we pretty much dominate the whole market now. And the company was profitable last year for the first time, right?
Hmm.
This year we project around $4 million in revenue and around $80 million in transactions for this year. We did $31 million last year and almost $2 million in revenue. So yeah, we're growing. We were supposed to forecast $200 million in transactions this year, but COVID happened, so we have to reduce our forecast. Yeah,
Yeah.
70 million, 80 million. Yeah, likely.
So if it's, and this is still purely from the developers as your main customers in.
Yes. Mostly, yeah. Largely, yes.
Mm.
But we can expand to other verticals too eventually, right?
The three other that you were talking about just now.
Yeah.
But how far?
Actually,
I guess.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just saying that, but I think there is still. I assume there is still a lot of potential still just within the developers. Putting COVID aside, there is still a lot of potential just in that vertical for now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Actually, the company is now evolved to what we call Qwikwire. Maybe I can share it here, right? Can I share a screen?
Sure. I think you should be able to.
Yeah, you should be able to. You should authorize it. Me.
Are you able to?
Yeah. 1 second.
Let me see.
Yeah, still not authorized.
Let me see. How do I authorize you to do that? Let me see. If I make you the host. Okay.
Currently in the office right now.
So you guys are still. So how's the COVID situation?
Oh, well, you can see the office is pretty much empty right now. Everybody's working from home. See, it's only one person. There's like a couple more over there in the finance room, but generally, it's pretty empty. Nobody's here.
But generally, is the numbers going up, going down in terms of infections?
Oh yeah, we see transactions growing over the last few months. Yeah, it was down in March, but it was back up again in May. We were up 30%, and then June we were up 12%, and in July I think we're going to be up 15%. So it's growing again. It's amazing. We actually hired more people. We didn't fire anybody. We didn't lay off anyone. Yeah.
Excellent.
I thought we will, but we didn't have to. Yeah, that's good.
Things picked up again pretty fast, huh?
Yeah, it's amazing. We were surprised too, but because most of our transactions are coming from previous sales, previous real estate transactions, so it's not part of new. It's not really new sales. So plus in the U.S., a lot of the Western Unions were closed physically, the physical stores. So many of them actually moved to us, using us. Yeah, so that's an advantage.
Yeah, so I'm curious about the buyers, right? So obviously it's probably quite unique that in the Philippines there are so many buyers coming from outside. Share that in the industry a little bit.
Well, it's 75% Filipinos overseas and then 25% foreign buyers. But in Thailand is another story. It's mostly 90% foreign buyers.
Who wants to cross border or have a holiday home in Thailand, right, or something like that?
Yes, or an investment or a holiday. Yeah, a lot of developers are selling overseas, and that's actually a big thing. Yeah.
So for the Philippines, then the market really is to market to the
Overseas Filipinos, yes,
Filipino.
sure. Actually, Philippines and Vietnam has a similar situation in terms of like the market. So yeah, Philippines and Vietnam are similar. Thailand is different.
Right. Wow. And as I was saying that, okay, so potentially there is still a lot of market there, and hopefully when COVID lifts, then the developers themselves will start picking up their sales again.
That's right. Yeah, actually, they start picking up again. They learn how to start selling online.
Hmm.
That's the beauty about it.
So that's amazing for me, right? That people would buy. I'm assuming not everybody will be able to fly back to the Philippines, look at the property, and in fact, there's no property to look at yet, right? There's a
Yeah,
prospectus.
it's still pre-selling. Yeah, so they have showrooms, they have samples, right? So
Hmm.
that's why online selling works, because the property is not even available yet.
So for a lot of these buyers from outside, do they eventually come back to it, or is
Yeah.
it really just an investment?
They do come back when they need to get a loan from a bank, because when they're paying the developer the first 3 years while the building is under construction, when their unit is ready for turnover, which means the building is done, right? They're not fully paid yet, right? But they have to get a loan from a bank, so the bank will pay the developer for the rest of the unit, and then they will start paying the bank. So a lot of them come home to get a bank loan. So we're launching acquire loans, wherein the Filipino living overseas doesn't have to come back here anymore to get a bank loan. They can apply for a bank loan while they're still living overseas. So our acquire platform they can submit one application and they can get a pre-approval with 10 different banks in the Philippines. So that's something we're launching this quarter. Pretty exciting.
Sweet. So what about this expansion to Thailand that you're talking about?
Well, it's similar. We're doing it through a joint partnership. We're not expanding overseas on our own. It's all going to be joint venture partnership. So it will be less costly for us and go fast to market, because these are already licensed entities, right? So because we need a license in Thailand to disperse funds. So rather than doing everything on our own, it's going to take a while and it's going to cost money. Why not just partner and share revenue? That's all we're going to do.
So why
We're
Thailand
more on-
as the next country?
Well, because Thailand has a big demand for cross-border payments for real estate. 90% of their cross-border are coming from foreign buyers, right? So it's a promising market, and we met with several potential partners there already in Thailand. Yeah, some one big conglomerate, a big fintech company, and a big prop tech company they're going to be working with.
So
I can't reveal who they are yet.
So when's that happening?
Well, it's supposed to be happening now, but a lot of things got delayed. So later this year. Yeah, later this year or early next year, if it will take longer.
So from a different vertical standpoint, so that really is expanding your the developer space, right? So
That's right.
And for the other verticals, what are you guys looking at?
Well, right now we have no intention of getting into other verticals. Just focus on real estate and then expanding overseas from there. That's the plan for the next 2 to 3 years, please.
Right.
The other verticals, no, there's no immediate plan right now. Maybe I'll have the business guys research and explore it, but for now, no, not yet.
Okay, fair enough.
Because we're first to market. If we capture the top 10 developers for every market, it's pretty much hard to compete with us, right? So it's being first to market is critical for a kind of business.
Yeah, and it's curious that nobody's doing it yet.
Oh, that's why, because every payments company try to capture everybody. E-commerce, that's like the hot thing right now. So while everybody's trying to do e-commerce, we're just doing this. Plus it's boring. It's not like a consumer app. It's not an app. It's not a cool thing on your cell phone.
Yeah, it's basically into Oracle and SAP and all that.
Yeah, it's boring. It's not cool. It's not techy enough. It's not hipster enough.
Hey, but you're profitable after 5 years, right? After 6 years, that's cool.
Yeah, we're profitable after 5 years. That's right. 2019 was the first year it became profitable.
Awesome. So in terms of the team itself, are you guys funded by anybody, or how far has it grown? So you had your
we're
team.
funded. We got some VCs, and I just won't reveal how much funding we have right now. But yeah, we're VC funded, and the team is composed of 7 different groups. We have business development as the spearhead. So it explores markets, it explores verticals, it explores compliance, regulation. And then after the business development team, we have the product and the tech team. So they design products that will be useful for that, whatever the business development team came up with. And then marketing and sales support that to sell the product. And then all of that is supported by finance and operations. So that's how we pretty much business development is the tip of the spear, right?
So you touched on the technology there. So it sounds like it is quite traditional still in terms of the technology that's driving the business.
Yeah, pretty hardcore back end SAP, Oracle kind of stuff that we do integrations with, right? It's like a bank. It's like a bank website, like we're building for all these developers, right? So their clients can check their balances, how much they still owe, because they don't have anything like that, right? So we're giving it to them, right?
Yeah.
So that's our specialization. Like, unlike most payments companies, they're built to scale. They have an API, and then here we have an API. So hire your own developers to integrate that. For us, it's like we do everything for them. So these are big clients. So I don't mind doing a lot of work for one client, because one client can bring you thousands of transactions per month on a recurring basis, regular recurring basis. Yeah.
The recurring part is the key, right? Because it's not just that one time he gets it. He has to pay for that property, right?
Yeah. If I have an e-commerce site, I don't know when this guy who made a purchase on my website, I don't know when he's going to purchase again. Right? But if you're paying a mortgage, you can rest assured that this guy's going to pay it back again next month. So once we convert someone, we kept, they're with us for many years.
So as a customer, do they see Qwikwire or do they see the developer?
Developer. And we're a white label, pretty much a white label.
Right.
Nobody knows. That's why we don't spend money on marketing, because nobody knows us. We don't need to.
Well, you market to your developers, right? Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, we do sales. Yeah, and it's cheaper to do enterprise sales than to do marketing and spend how many thousands on Facebook and Google, right? Because a lot of these new startup right now, these consumer apps, they're raising millions in funding, like Honestbee, and for every $1 million that they generate in revenue, they spend $500,000 or $600,000 in marketing effort, right? So it's always losing money for all of these guys, and it's a big problem. And a lot of them are, there's a Vietnamese one that just collapsed recently. Honestbee already also collapsed, right? So it's something that's very common right now, because it's a war of attrition. They're just burning money, right? It's a competition of funding.
Yeah. The customer acquisition cost is nuts, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, we already matched the revenue of one big unicorn right now. There's we have the same revenue, all right? I'm not gonna mention which unicorn this is, but they raised $150 million, right? And they were only able to match our revenue for a company that raised a lot less than that, right?
Yeah, and you've got real money coming in.
Yeah, we're making money. Yeah.
Yeah. So what about the team itself?
So our path is, I would say, more like a slow but solid growth, rather than growth fueled by funding. Oh, the next valuation is up.
The new economy.
Yeah, slow but solid growth. And we already outlasted a lot of the even more well-funded companies out there in the Philippines and abroad. We already outlasted many of them, right? They just blew up and collapsed. For us, no, we don't have a lot of the big overhead. You don't even need that many people to run this business. There's 36 of us right now, but we can run this business with 8 people. If we have to, really shrink down. We can run it with 8 people. Because everything is automated. The only reason we have more people is because we're growing the business. So a lot of people, we spend 80% of our time trying to grow than just to maintain the business. Because it's not an operations heavy business. A lot of businesses, they spend a lot of money and manpower to maintain the operations, to keep the business functioning, while spending 20% on growth. But most of our efforts are spending on growth activities of sales, marketing. It's not really it's not an operations heavy business. You don't really get tired that much. We take all the holidays. We take all the weekends. That's what everybody's working from home. That's why people stay here. They love to work here.
Nice. Yeah, because as soon as you lock in a developer, right, you build that website for them, and as they're selling their products, as far as you're concerned, you just
the transactions just flow through. We just monitor transactions. Yeah, that's all we're doing.
Sweet. So I was going to ask you something that yeah, I was just talking about a team, but you touched on that. So there's only about 30 of you, and you know the focus really is on expanding the business and getting new
Yeah.
partners. Mm.
We grow around a natural rate of 6% per month, without spending money on growth, without spending money on marketing. But we believe that after funding, we get funded a Series A or a Series B, probably able to grow the company 20 to 25% per month with promotional campaigns. So that could easily be achieved.
Yeah. Wow.
And we're close to getting the funding soon, the bigger funding. So yeah.
Yeah. So it's just funny when you said that it's operationally light, that it reminds me of your story when you were in college, right? You wanted to do something that sits at the side and just earns you the money whilst you can study, right? So now you've almost
Yeah.
something similar, right? Here you are, you can focus on other things whilst the business that you
True.
build, you know, it kind of runs itself.
That's true. You know, sometimes I'm out of the country for a few weeks, and then my team runs the business. You know, like well, the way the team leaders that we built, they're the ones pretty much running every department. So they have their own goals, top level, but they decide how to get it done. So I would have my own. I will discuss a goal with the team. This is our targets, and then they will have their recommendation. And what we decide on a course of action, you leave them alone, right? Stay out of the way,
Mm.
unless if they need help or there's something critical. But in most cases, in most of the time, I'm like not even involved in the day to day or even yeah. But I do know what's going on. Before I took it to a point where in being an anti micromanagement guy, I was really not even involved at all, not even knowing what they're doing. So that was kind of an extreme. That was a bad thing. So it was viewed by some as lacking leadership.
Mm.
So I kind of went the other way too much, and now like trying to get into the middle back again. And they want to feel my presence. I'm there all the time, and so I'm involved. Also, I know what's going on. I know what they're doing. So I need to get educated all the time, and I can make my recommendations as long as I don't dictate what to do. I will just say what I know, and I make them decide. Basically, allowing them to make mistakes, allowing them to make decisions. That's pretty much the idea behind it. Empowering them. That's what they want, right? So. And it's also less stress for me.
When
It's
things are
about
going good, so it's good.
yeah, it's about trust. You trust people that they can make the right decision. What's the likelihood that they're going to make the wrong decision? Is probably just as likely as I'm going to make the wrong decision, right? And then, for example, marketing does marketing all the time. It's what they do. They specialize on it. How can I make a better decision than the people already involved on the field, right? How can I make a better decision than someone who's thinking about it every day,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
That's their job every day. So I would ask questions, I would inquire, make suggestions, but at the end of the day, they make decisions. Even hiring, they make most of the hiring decisions for
Mm.
department. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, well, it's almost been an hour. Let's talk a little bit about Ray. Then, what is Ray's plans?
Oh, well, I plan to become a blacksmith one day, probably in a year or two when I retire. Yeah,
Okay,
I
that's
want
a
to
good
make
plan.
swords and like I want to play with fire and metal and steel and forge things using yeah,
Okay,
I want to do that.
that's unexpected. Where did that come from?
Oh, I've always wanted to do it. I tried it before, so you know it's not like to me. Okay, everybody says you want to be you have to be passionate about your business. Who gets passionate about credit card processing? Nobody gets passionate about so yeah, like you have to work hard. You have to have if you lack passion, have discipline, right? So to keep going, right? So and it's like there's more to life than just work, right? So I
Hmm.
probably like enjoy doing that kind of stuff. Um, Probably in a couple of years, maybe even get a horse, get a
Cool.
horse, maybe try pottery. I want to just like maybe have a winery. I don't know. What am I gonna do? Something along that line where I want to create things. Like
Hmm.
with
Yeah, sounds like that. Yeah.
yeah. I want to create things every day. Maybe even carpentry. I know how to do carpentry. I know electrical. I know. Back in the U.S., I learned a lot of things. I can even change I can change the spark plugs of cars, right? Spark plugs and change the oil and electrical. I learned all that in the U.S. I learned how to do carpentry work, electrical, welding.
Ah, interesting. And I guess it's better start thinking about your succession planning then.
Yeah, we're thinking about it all the time, of course, yeah. But I'm still enjoying the work here, so it's really not. Probably if I don't enjoy the work, the daily work here anymore, probably I'll become a blacksmith, or else I'll try to become a blacksmith on weekends when I go home for the weekend. Right, I'll start making swords and sell it to the market, right?
Yeah, looking
I
forward to
probably sell replicas of the famous swords on Game of Thrones, or copy what they do there, and then, yeah,
or the throne itself.
maybe.
That's
And then I can use that as my office chair. Hey, we have meetings, right? And you have people coming in from banks, and then they see you sitting there.
hopefully the same number of people walk out of the meeting, huh?
Yeah.
Hey, okay, Ray, let me let you go.
Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it. Yeah.
No, it's a pleasure. I mean, there's a lot of lessons to learn from from your journey, and all the best for as you grow to Thailand, and hopefully cycle back to Malaysia sometime.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Probably, hopefully next year.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Oh, let's catch up. Yeah.
Yeah, let's catch
Or
up.
when you come to the Philippines too. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. When we can travel again.
Yeah.
Okay, Ray.
All right, thank you for all the help. Thank you. Really appreciate
Hey,
it.
no problem, man. Always a pleasure.
Right.
All right.
Bye bye. Have a good one.
You too.